Hello, welcome to our DM deep dive here at D&D in a Castle. My name is Hopper. I'm really excited to be here today with Mike Tinney, who is running our Chronicle mode this fall. How are you doing, Mike?
I am great. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic, and I'm really excited to talk about your upcoming sold out 2 weeks at this November and this autumn. So why don't we explain what Chronicle mode is for any of our guests who are watching who might not know?
Sure. So Chronicle Mode is a mode you can only access if you're coming to 2 consecutive rounds of D&D in a castle. And so a little caveat, like I'm on the board of the company. I'm probably the anomalous DM where I have a background in game design, but then I also help the company from the inside, and I bridge those 2 worlds a little bit by running new formats at D&D in a Castle, and Chronicle Mode is one of those new formats. And what we realized is that a large number of people, for good and awesome reasons, were in for a penny and in for a pound with our castle events, and we would book typically 2 or more back-to-back events, and these folks would just come and intend to play in both. And then we wondered that if we offered one campaign that had a larger story that spanned across both separate events, if there would be, customer interest in that. And it turns out that there is. So this is an epic, bigger than big version of D&D, which spans 2 normal D&D in a Castle campaign lengths. It's a huge narrative canvas to tell a story on. And we launched it last year during the 50th anniversary, where it was kind of a celebration of the history of D&D across 2 weeks, but now we're kind of in the full Chronicle mode where we can just tell big stories and do awesome things.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. And we debuted it last fall, and we had 1 table, and it sold out so quickly we added a 2nd table. It was that high of a demand.
Yeah, and those particular stories were tied in with the 50th anniversary of D&D. So one of the tables was a day-by-day transition through every edition of D&D mechanically. And then the other table was a waltz through the greatest hits of the best modules ever. So Keep on the Borderlands, Expedition of the Barrier Peaks, all the classics. And it was a great way to celebrate 50 years of D&D. But now we're past that anniversary, and it's an opportunity to use the Chronicle mode to just tell big and dynamic stories that don't fit inside of a normal D&D campaign.
Yeah. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your campaign that you are running for this big story? And a side note, if you are watching and you want to ask questions, feel free to throw it in the chat and we'll be able to get to that.
I don't do requests. No, I'm kidding. Please ask questions.
Please ask questions. Ask him your questions.
So I guess I come from the perspective of a game designer. So I've done a little bit of writing. I've done some other aspects of the industry, but the heart that beats in my chest is a big fan of game design. And what I mean by that is that the mechanics of any game that you make or play defines the behavior and kind of the thought that goes into that game from players. So when I ran hardcore mode, I made a kind of a kingdom building legacy game that spanned 60 years. And the thought from the players then and the behavior became very, kind of empire building. They thought in bigger picture stuff about their characters. It wasn't just about what kind of sword they equipped, but it was what they did in the 5 years between sessions with their characters, whether or not they got married or had kids, that type of thing. And the same kind of mindset for me applies to Chronicle mode. And I work best when I'm excited about the story that the players and I are going to tell together. And so this Chronicle mode is called Immortal. And I don't think it would even fit inside a hardcore mode campaign, because the concept is that all of the player characters at the beginning of the campaign have already figured out whatever their character's version of immortality is, whether it's just a living god on earth that doesn't age, or a lich, or an eternal hero that gets reincarnated. My intention is to work with each player one-on-one to help kind of craft their character's reason and rules around their immortality. But then the adventure begins with those characters going through the entire kind of cradle to grave of a world spanning thousands of years, and each day of gameplay, which is a full 8 hours, will feature a different age in the world. And so these consequential immortal beings will gather only at times of great peril and consequence. And that's when we'll zoom out from the meta of what is your immortal character doing with their immortality down to here's a specific thing that only these entities have the capacity to address. And that will be our gaming session. So I'm excited to tell, you know, I'm not sure if it's going to be 1,000 or 2,000 or 5,000 years yet. I'm kind of sketching out the architecture for that right now. But it's going to be an epic, sweeping campaign where one of the characters at the table is the world itself, and that character is affected by the choices the players make and the things that they do with their characters.
Wow. Wow, that is an epic story. And you said you couldn't fit it in hardcore mode, which for those who don't know is 36 hours over the 3 days versus the 24 hours we get for a campaign. But this is now, what, 48 hours over the 2 weeks that
we'll probably do more than that if my players have an appetite for it, because we've got the 2 arrival days, and these players will only arrive once. So we've got some bandwidth there. And when I ran my first hardcore mode game, I just wanted to see how much D&D humans could actually play across 4 days. And it turns out it's 51 hours. So I don't think I'll be running 12 hours a day for Chronicle mode, because it's just, you know, 2 weeks is a long run, and I'm going to want that downtime between days to, you know, receive input from the players for what they're doing off camera, have that affect the next age of the world, and build some consequences in. But I think it'll be more than 48 hours. What I'm really looking at is it's essentially 6 to 8 days, 6 to 8 ages of a world, 6 to 8 broad beats of this kind of epic narrative story.
Wow. Wow. That sounds like just, an epic story. And it's sold out already. So there's already a full table. So if you're interested, we do have a QR code right now for joining the Chronicle Mode waitlist. And, you know,
so I will say that another great way to get in line for stuff that's coming out is not just the waitlist, but also the deposits, because very often the deposit holders get access before the waitlisters. Not always. It depends on the lane, but typically the hierarchy is the deposit holders find out first, then the waitlisters, or the subscribers for a specific category, and then the general public. So if you want to get that, you know, premium tier, whatever club line entrance, the deposit holders usually get that first and fastest.
Yeah. And we've seen events themselves just sell out just deposit holders, or half sell out from a deposit holder before even general public can get into it. So it's a great way to get there first and get the seat that you want first, even if there's space at the event itself. We've seen that. We have a couple of comments. One is from Shane, who said he was part of your timed battle royale at the Mohican Castle in the USA, and it was one of the most intense one-shot adventures he's ever been a part of. And also, having been in it, it was great.
Yeah, that's another great example of rules design guiding behavior. So that one shot, for folks that are, you know, maybe haven't experienced it or heard about it, because I don't think we've talked about it that much, but it's 4 30-minute rounds. You've got a full party. You've got 6 out of 7 characters to choose from, and you're going to go through 4 out of 5 encounters drawn randomly. And if you can complete the encounter within 30 minutes, your party gets a full rest. If you don't complete the encounter, your party gets a short rest. So you're kind of incented to just go hard. And one of the meta rules is if you know it, your character knows it. So don't ever ask me if your character knows something, because this is really a one-shot about testing your player skills. And what ends up happening is when your turn comes around, you already know what your character is going to do. And you've got a plan. And I encourage everybody who plays this game to think about that, because combats take a long time. If you're in kind of a casual game, you can wait 30 or 45 minutes between the things that you do with your character. And if you can speed that up to 10 or 15 minutes just by everybody kind of having their ducks in a row, then the game goes faster, and it's more exciting and dynamic. And the intensity that Shane is commenting on, it can exist in you know, any home game under those circumstances.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I also tried to kill all the characters all the time.
You absolutely do. Yes. And you were successful, I've heard, with some of them. So we have a question I do want to ask first before we get to that. This Chronicle mode kind of was your idea, right? So where did that come from, and how did this kind of come to be?
It just, I mean, it's just the kind of a pattern recognition. If we have a lot of people that are staying for both rounds, comma, I wonder if they would like to play in one contiguous campaign across both rounds. And then it takes, also a dungeon master who has an appetite to tell a bigger story. It's a huge canvas, both in terms of the chronological number of days and the amount of hours every day that you have. And you really can't, I haven't found any place else where it can be replicated. So you don't have a chance to tell a story like this or participate in one outside of D&D in a castle. There's no other event that I know of that runs 2 weeks and change, that the only thing you're doing at that event is playing D&D. And so invariably, for 90% of the people, you wake up one morning thinking about the raid on the kobold village or how you're going to defend the castle from the dragon, and you forget the name of the day of the week in the real world. And so an opportunity to do that across 2 sessions with a huge scope of a story is just really exciting. And I think, given the interest we're seeing from our guests, you can expect more Chronicle modes in the future.
Yeah. And so you said that it takes a certain DM with a hunger for that. So I feel like you couldn't put any just DM in that role. So which kind of speaks to like the types of DMs that come to this.
I would say that I think we have a very high quality of talent in our DM roster. And I think any of them could rise to the challenge. But there's a difference between being able to and being creatively excited about it. Some DMs, I'll use Mark Meir as an example because I don't think he would mind. Mark has crafted what is much more of a stage production of a D&D game, where you are going to play one of the actors in a production that he has created. And he has 3 or 4 in his roster, and every time he runs the story, it's always different because the players make different decisions, but it's also, kind of a saw sharpening activity for Mark, where he's already, a great theater performer, but he just gets better and better and better at it. Mark might not be the type of DM who would have a passion for, expanding an existing story to twice as long, or creating a work of art, which I would consider his games to be, in a format that could only run at a 2-week D&D in a castle, because no other venue has a stage that could fit a story like that. So I think any of our DMs could do it, but some DMs, I think, probably have more of a creative passion for it than others. And that's where we try to find that fit.
Yeah. So we have actually some comments on craftsmanship and passion. So Sebastian said, Sebastians, I apologize, said you're a great guy. Looks like a lot of fun. And
he was
Shane,
at one of our D&D weekends at my lake
Yeah.
house that I was hosting, and I would say right back at you, man.
Yeah.
You're a great guy too.
Shane says, agreed. You're a brilliant craftsman. So anybody who's been at your table, one of your one shots, really knows like the passion that you have for game design and for a unique game.
Well, I will say though, everybody who runs at our events has a specialty, and mine is absolutely in tinkering with the mechanics to drive mood, tension, pace of the story that the people are playing in. But it's like sitting at the chef's table in the kitchen. Not everybody wants to do that. Some people want the restaurant experience where you have a waiter and you've got your own booth and you're kind of in a private area. You're gonna watch the food get made at my table. Like, we're gonna be in the middle of it. There have been times where an idea I had creatively for how to express a rules mechanic to drive a certain outcome did not fare well when it made contact with reality. And we've had to just say, okay, you know what? We're gonna leave that one aside. That was a bad call. Let's move on to this other one, and we'll go from there. So that happens sometimes, but that's kind of part of my style.
Yeah, which I think is really one of my favorite things kind of about coming to D&D in a castle is that you can look at the dungeon masters, you see what campaigns they're running, and you can kind of pick one that fits you. And I've had a lot of people be like, well, that was the perfect game for me. Like that hit all of the things I love as a player. I did that when I was a player. I picked Joseph Limbaugh, who was just really funny and really hit my vibes. And so I think that's really great for players to get to pick kind of which chef they think they would, at what table they would be best at.
And I think these interviews that you guys continue to do help people coming to D&D in a castle listen to a dungeon master talk about why they do what they do and what they like about it, and you know, in those expressions can help a player find the DM that's the right fit for them.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, so we have a couple of questions from Crucible of Fate. Hello, David. What is your favorite setting to play in or DM, and what is your favorite character that you've played?
I think my favorite DM setting has been, I've been playing since 1978 or 77 or something. So I've played a lot, but I guess I'll probably default to my most recent one, which was my hardcore mode game, which is a kingdom building game that spans decades. And, you know, I like it because it inspires a level of investment from the players that you don't get at a weekly home game. Like everybody kind of goes in deeply. I ran a version of that game for this company's board of directors and their kind of business friends, and they're not hardcore D&D players. They kind of are more voyeurs, but they went in. I got them into the deep end of the pool, and there were even like some misty eyes at parts, which I consider a good validation of the format and what you can do when somebody is just there to just play D&D and not really worry about the rest of the daily stuff that goes on. In terms of my favorite character, I don't know. My business partner Steve Wick, who is an executive over at Roll20, ran a campaign that lasted a year and a half, and I played a dwarf artificer who was just cranky, and I would set myself up in these RP moments, usually to make multiple skill tests for something when you really didn't need to. And at one point, one of the guys at the table was like, "I love that you're giving yourself multiple chances to fail at this." I'm like, "Oh yeah, he's absolutely going to fail at this." But then it becomes, you know, at which point do things go off the rails, and then we role play that. So that was a fun character.
That's great. I love that. We have a question from Genevieve, who says, in Chronicle Mode campaign, how do you manage player character development across such a long duration? Do you allow for significant growth or change during that time?
Yeah, so I see the feed. I saw that question. I don't think I'm going to spoil the mechanics for Chronicle Mode. However, I will say in hardcore mode, the Chronicle Mode will be a version of the hardcore mode mechanics that I created. So in the hardcore mode game that spanned 60 years, in between each session, 3 to 5 years passed. And players had a fixed number of downtime actions they could take with their characters. And they could spend them on the kingdom or on personal adventures, or there's like a menu for them to choose from. And these actions had some mechanics behind them. And there was always a trade-off. There was always, 3 or 4 things that you wanted to do and 2 or 3 things that you had time for. And Chronicle Mode will be something like that. But I do think we'll just play probably for 2 beefy sessions a day, not 3. And I will use that 3rd time slot probably in the library bar to do one-on-one meetings with my players and kind of go into a little bit of a 30 minutes of office hours of what their character is going to do over the next 250 years and what their objectives are. Make it a little more freeform. I don't know that you can anticipate mechanically everything that might, be creatively inspired by that format.
Yeah, so let's actually touch on this format a little bit. For anybody who doesn't know or hasn't been to a D&D in a Castle event, what kind of they can expect playing and what the format looks like in the campaign structure, even for just a like Chronicle Mode or Hardcore Mode.
Sure. I mean, you get there, you arrive on the bus from the airport or the train station, and you're in a welcome ceremony that's in front of the castle. We make the staff of the castle come out and participate in it as well, and they love that. They do. They don't mind, but
They do.
they're there to run their castle. We introduce all the DMs, and you immediately pair up with your DM, and you go to your game room, and you start either session 0 if you haven't done that online yet, or in some cases, like in my games, we always roll dice on that first session. We're always doing at a minimum a prologue adventure between arrival and dinner, and then you're released for dinner. Then there's a welcome ceremony, and kind of what to expect is gone over by the staff. There's an evening of festivities and activities, and then the next day you're in your campaigns for the next 3 days. And you break for lunches and dinners and breakfasts and stuff like that. Snacks and drinks are available in your game room at all times. Some DMs are very good at keeping to a schedule. Others kind of color outside the lines a little bit and run late into the evening or do extra shifts. I usually try to do that with the buy-in from my players, but I always try. Like, I'm not satisfied if we're just playing 8 hours a day. Like, I'm there to play D&D. I want to play a lot.
Yeah, and that's what people are there for. They're there to play D&D. It's you're as soon as you get off that coach, you are swept away into this immersive experience where that's all you think about and all you really need to worry about. You're not worrying about laundry or kids. Like, it's just you eat, sleep, and you roll dice when you're playing. Yeah, it's an amazing experience. We also have a comment from a Little Mad. It says, absolutely interested to read more about your game mechanic, kitchen ideas, any blogs or place where you can hear more about your DMing style. If I may, right up in the corner, you can scan the QR code or go to dndinacastle.com/dungeon-masters, which should pop up at some point. And you can look at all our dungeon masters and look at yours and see your gaming style. And I'm freezing a little bit. There we go. Yeah, so we can look more into each dungeon master on our website pretty easily.
Yeah.
I'll
say that for me in particular, I'm not an online content creator. I'm a guy that was professionally in the industry since the 90s, and so I have games published that I'm credited on developing and designing, but they're all very old at this point. This interview is probably one of the best ways to hear about how I think about running games, because I don't do a lot of other public facing stuff, or buy the ticket, take the ride at some future event, and I will take your character with you piloting it through some sort of epic adventure.
Yeah. So again, for those who are joining us, you can sign up. We are sold out for Mike's Chronicle Mode almost pretty quickly. There are still space left in our November rounds from November 3rd through 7th and 10th through 14th. So you can join the waitlist, but even better, grab a deposit if you want to be first to hear new events, or just sign up for the event itself and come roll dice with us. You can even talk with Mike at the library bar afterwards with a drink and pick his brain even more that way. I'm sure over a round of love letter, you'd be willing to talk more about your game style, Mike.
Pretty much all in on winning love letter when I play that, but
yeah,
no, just kidding. I enjoy hanging out and meeting people and talking about the hobby for sure. That's why I'm
Yeah, I think, and it's a great event too to get to meet fellow players, and I've seen a lot of people develop friendships in just the short 4 days that they're there, from rolling off the bus as strangers to crying and hugging and exchanging numbers and setting up weekly games with each other at the last day. I think it's really just like the top kind of D&D experience that I've seen, even just as a player in my 6-ish years I've been playing D&D. It's really something. Yeah. Well, if you have any more questions for Mike as well, just throw them up here. We're here again if you're joining us with Mike Tinney, who's running Chronicle Mode at D&D in a Castle this November. He also is just at a lot of our events and a really great guy. And so if any questions that you have, or for me, we'd love to answer them, because we know this event pretty well, and we're happy to share our love for D&D and just this awesome event that we get to be at. And Shane says is worth every single penny. Thank you, Shane. Love having you there. Really excited when we get to see, especially returning guests. We have a lot of returning guests, right, that come back and play.
It's super welcoming of new people. And I would say most events have, about 40% new, 60% returning. And it becomes, a little bit of a reunion in some cases, which is always nice. You get to see people over, over the years and rotate through tables with each other. We have a couple groups that just, they found each other at the castle. They book together all the time. This one in particular always books with the same DM. Another group is reaping through DMs like harvesters and trying them all out. So there's a couple different ways you can go about it. And then with our D&D weekends format, some groups are starting to book private tables and DMs that way. So if you've got a group of friends and a free weekend, that's a possibility too.
Yeah, which I think we just released a couple more D&D weekends as well for the rest of this year too, with the Epic B-Day Vaulters too. If you want to go on our website and check that out. Thank you, Shane. So the bond formed at the table at D&D and Castle is extraordinary between players and DM alike. Yeah, you definitely see that. I think in our last Chronicle Mode in November, I remember we had a unique situation where a player couldn't join for the first week. So they hopped in Chris Haley's game the second week, the one where they were doing a different edition every day. So what a daunting game to jump into. Yeah. But I remember hearing that table was so welcoming to that player, and they just grabbed them and just brought them in and helped them catch up. And I think they're even booking a table together now, all of them again this year.
Nice.
In autumn. Yeah. So it really just, I think, speaks to just the bonds that are formed and the friends that you make at D&D and Castle over the love of this awesome game. Yeah. Yeah.
For sure.
Well, yeah. Anything else, Mike, you want to talk about for your game style, for Chronicle Mode, the event itself? I know you got a lot in there that I would love to hear more about.
I mean, no, I think, like anything that's worth doing, what you put into it is what you get out of it. And that's true for players and DMs alike. And we're very lucky to have, the group of people that come to run games at D&D and a Castle are all dedicated to their craft. And they have different kind of areas of specialty and focus. Some are more theater of the mind. Some build epic miniatures. Lisa T travels with like 16 checked bags full of, resin printed stuff that she creates for every game, along with a bunch of puzzles and stuff like that. But everybody kind of has their own, like all the DMs know their rules. They read the room well. They're empathetic to the players at their table. They craft good stories, but then past that baseline, folks start to go in different sort of specialty directions. If you want to see a DM argue with themselves as two different characters, go to Mark Mear's table. If you want to play level 20 and not look back and save the universe, or almost save the universe, go to B. Dave's table. If you want to look at epic set pieces and figure out real world tactile puzzles, Lisa Teague does a phenomenal job with stuff like that. So everybody's kind of got their own specialty, and they really are all great. And so, but from a player side, I would say that the caliber of players is very strong. And I don't mean that in an intimidating way. People come as their authentic selves. They come prepared and interested in having a great time. And everybody's there on vacation. This is your vacation. And so you generally, I haven't really seen, like, if you go to Gen Con, I love Gen Con. If you go to Gen Con, sometimes you get that character, that player at a one shot who's kind of a troll, and they're there to have fun at everybody else's expense. I've never seen that at D&D in a Castle. People are just there to kind of build trust with each other and have a good time. So it's a very collaborative environment, very welcoming.
Yeah. It's awesome how I've seen people just would be welcoming, and like you said, they're bought in. There's not scrolling on your phone. They're there to play and make a great experience. And we've had people who are brand new to the game and maybe played one session before or never played that have been absolutely welcomed to the table by the players, because it's just building a community, like you said, building trust. Well, I think they're coming up on time. If you have any questions, throw it in. But I think we are nearing the end. Mike, thank you for joining us. It's really excited to talk to you about Chronicle Mode. Again, you can find more available on our website, and we still have some spots left for November. Not at Mike's table. That is already sold out very quickly. So if you want to get a chance to join another Chronicle Mode in the future, grab a deposit so you can be one of the first to get announcements and information and chance to sign up before it goes to the general public. You can see here, or go to our website as well. And it's if you or come, like I said, buy a ticket and join us at the castle in November as seats are filling up, but we would love to have you. And we also have some spots left in our summer USA, if that's it's a little even closer, if not a little hotter in the summer here in the USA. So Mike, why don't you take us out with an invitation to join us at D&D in a Castle this November?
Sure. Well, first I'm going to say thanks everybody for some great questions. And it's been a pleasure sharing my passion for the game with you all. But yeah, if there's some spots left this November, and if you're on the fence, hop on the other side of it, please. We'd love to see you, and it's always a good time. And that's a special castle. So come on out. Oh, there's one other thing very special about that particular castle is a couple of our DMs are running brand new 2025 Forgotten Realms campaigns in the new Forgotten Realms setting, and Wizards is giving them advanced access so that the Forgotten Realms launches just before the castle, and we have 5 or 6 DMs that are getting watermarked PDF copies of the book in July or August so they can craft their campaigns in one of the new Forgotten Realms settings. So if I can't speak to whether or not there's open seats at some of those tables. I think that there are, would guess that there are. But if you're a fan of the Forgotten Realms and into that new access type of stuff, then this is kind of a new hotness for D&D in a Castle. We're the official vacation partner of Wizards of the Coast for D&D, but more than that, this is the first time that Wizards has really kind of leaned in, or we've leaned into each other to do something at the castle that is timely with what is going to be their biggest release of the year. I am told here via our special messaging system, which is a private chat, that Myri and B Dave both have some seats remaining for their Forgotten Realms campaigns, and they're both great DMs.
Yeah. Talk about the epic 20th level ones with B Dave. So grab your seats for that if you're really interested in being one of the first to play in these new settings by Dungeon Masters who already have done the crafting in that setting. Again, we're filling up, but if you have any questions, join us on dndinacastle.com, and you can jump into our live chat. We will have a real life human there to chat with you, most likely me or my great buddy Justin. Will be happy to answer any questions that you have, or send us an email as well. So thank you, Mike, for that. And I think that was a great outro, but just take it away as we head on out. Give us a goodbye.
Again?
Yeah.
Another goodbye. 2 goodbyes.
Yeah,
this is a 2 goodbye meeting. Bye, guys.
Next week.